So we're at 10 o'clock. If we can just maybe call the meeting to order, I'm just going to run it for the election of the chair and the vice chair. So the first item of business is election of the chair. So are there any nominations for the chair?
I have one.
Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Smith.
I nominate Judy.
And is there a seconder for that? Sorry, give me 1 second. So because the election of chair and vice chair is done through secret ballot, I just need to go grab some paper. Give me 1 minute. Councillor Smith, if you wanted to just maybe send me an email of who your vote is for chair, you have an option between Councillor Greenwood Spears and Councillor Fowler.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there was another nomination.
Leonard. So the two nominations have been Councillor Ray Leonard and Councillor Greenwood Spears.
I sent an email, Jeanette.
So it is a tie vote. So the next option is the names go in a hat. So give me one more minute. I need a basket.
Just 1 minute, can I decline? That was never put on the table before, whether you declined or not, so I will decline and hand this back over to Judy.
Give me one. So now we just are moving to nominations for the vice chair. So are there any nominations for vice chair?
I'll second that. Ask what you accept.
Are there any other nominations?
Jeanette, I didn't hear anybody.
Oh,
Who?
my apologies, Counselor Smith. Just a reminder, you do need to use your microphones. So Counselor Fowler, sorry, wrong area. Counselor Leonard moved Counselor Fowler to be vice chair, and Counselor Greenwood Spears seconded that nomination.
Okay,
Are there any other nominations? So seeing none, Counselor Fowler, do you accept that nomination? So I will turn the meeting over to the chair.
All right, thank you very much and welcome back. I'm calling this meeting to order of January 29th of the Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee. It's now 10:05, 10:08 according to my watch, I guess. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place of the first peoples and their ancestors who are entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the indigenous peoples who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the county is committed to working with indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. Now, is there any pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof of anybody? Seeing none, we need to look to the adoption of the agenda as circulated on January 29th, meeting the Planning of Economic Development Committee as adopted. Can I have a mover? Okay.
I second that.
Okay, Councillor, Mr. McIntosh, sorry, Leonard and Haig, right? I'm bad with names, always have been. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, adoption of the minutes. That the minutes of Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting of November 27th of 2025 be adopted. Do I have a mover, a seconder? Okay. Jim and Bill again. Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Deputations and presentations. I see Mr. Gallivan is jumping up. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Welcome to 2026. I think we've got a number of issues this year that are going to keep you interested. So thanks for serving on the committee. Okay, I'll just wait for Ms. Amini to set this up. Pardon me?
Okay, so we're at the director's briefings for Joe Gallivan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a relatively short briefing, but there's some good information in here that we want to share with you. Technology and money are not friends. Thank you, Ms. Miller. Okay, the natural heritage study. So we've talked to you about this before. This is a major piece of work that we're starting. It's going to take more than a year to complete. We just retained the consultant, Natural Resource Solutions. They're an Indigenous company based in Waterloo, but two of their team members actually live in South Frontenac around Perth Road Village. So they're very familiar with the area. Usually when we put out a request for proposals, we have a practice where if we get 5 responses to a proposal, we think we've done a good job laying out what we're looking for and what we want. We got more than 10 on this, and 7 of them were very good quality. It took us a long time to shortlist down to 4. And then after extensive interviews, myself, Ms. Bolton and Ms. Delderhorst and the planning director from South Frontenac were involved in the interviews. We selected Natural Resources. We just had our startup meeting earlier this week. What's unique about this work, what's different from the work we did in 2012 is the perspective. We followed to the letter the provincial guidelines the last time. And, thanks to the time I've spent working for Frontenac and people I've met, and I want to particularly mention Mr. Gray Merriam in Central Frontenac, who I've had lots of good conversations with about environmental protection. We're using a different approach, a bigger picture approach, and we're looking at what do we really need to protect in Frontenac that will still be in very good condition 100 years from now. Interestingly, we've been told by a number of consulting firms that pressure's coming to Frontenac. The pressure that's been in the Kawarthas and the Muskokas is coming your way. So that's why we think this is an important piece of work. And it's going to be looking at not necessarily the details that the province expects, but what are the large swaths of land that we really need to look at protecting over the next 100 years. It's called the landscape ecology approach, which Mr. Merriam has taught me about. There will be a lot of consultation. They'll be out in all 4 townships starting this summer. They'll be talking with township staff, provincial staff. They have a detailed plan to talk to the Algonquins and other Indigenous groups. So there's a lot of work ahead. We won't be starting public consultation probably until April, but I will keep you up to date on this project. I will be setting up an online Engage Frontenac site as well. I'm working on that right now. And also this will result in a major amendment to the county official plan sometime in 2027. It won't affect the local official plans for a while. It's no longer working. It's not working. Thank you. Just a quick update on the community planning permit system. We've been working on that for over a year. Mr. Dmitry Kurlyovich is our project lead on that, working with all 4 townships. So this is planning tools that each of the 4 townships will be using. And so we're at a stage now where, after a lot of consultation, we've received a draft template, a draft bylaw template that will be used by all 4 townships and will be modified by each 4 townships. So as noted on the slide, we received it in February. We'll have that draft template set out in February to the working group, which includes staff, and we'll start to get ready to implement it. Based on the work we have with the townships, probably 1 township will be selected to go first, and then the other ones will follow over the next year or 2. Next, please, Jeanette. So every year, we have to update our planning fees for the 3 townships that we work for. And so at the end of every year, I download all of the planning hours that we track, and I'll be reporting to each of the 3 township councils sometime probably in March in more detail about the costs for this upcoming year, as well as some of the major projects we worked on last year. So I'm just going to go over a couple of the highlights here. First of all, planning applications, they've gone up again. They went from 94 to 119 last year. And that's after 4 years of decline, but they went up again last year, and they went up on all 3 townships, from 44 to 56 in Central, from 40 to 45 in North, and from 10 to 18 on the islands. Next, please, Jeanette. And here's all the hours we spent working for the 3 townships last year. 1,915 hours, that's up almost 10%. Central hours went up 25%. North's went up almost 25%. Surprisingly, the islands went down 72%, from almost 500 hours in 2024 down to 285. And then thinking about that, there just wasn't a lot of development activity on the islands last year. So even though we had more applications, they were relatively straightforward, but the hours went down. I suspect that won't be the case this year, because in 2027, we're probably looking at some major policy projects for the islands. So we'll see what happens. But again, the hours have gone up about 10%. Next, please, Jeanette. And then here's the total number of applications. I mentioned 119. The one that stands out is the second from the top, the delegated authority consents. Those are what we call non-disputed severances, where there's nobody appealing it. All 4 townships, including South Frontenac, use this tool. We started using it, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And you can see that represents 40% of all the applications. And what does that mean? It's a significant time saver, because for those kind of consents, we don't have to write a planning report. We don't have to go in front of the committee. So we save all that time and money for the townships. Also, it saves time for the property owner, because that process is much faster than going through a committee of adjustment process where there's a decision made and then there's an appeal period. So it's been working quite well. Other than if we hadn't had that, the hours for the townships would have been much more higher than they were in 2025. Next, please, Jeanette. These are the county hours. So over 3,100 hours last year. That's an increase for the 2nd year in a row. And that 3,100 hours represents more than 60% of all the hours we spent last year in planning. That's a good news story, because that means we had more time to work on the big picture projects, like the community planning permit system. That was about 250 hours. The work, I still continue to work on the communal services, more than 200 hours last year. Ms. Bolton spent a lot of time with Township of South Frontenac staff helping getting their official plan approved, and it is approved, and it's a big step forward, but that was 75 hours. And I spent less time doing ECDEV work last year than I did the year before. Plus, we had the full complement of staff in the building. So, but that is good for helping all of Frontenac move forward on planning. Next, please. Just want to let you know we're dealing with an appeal in Central Frontenac Township. Ms. Jenny Kapusta is carrying this file. Development on Long Lake in Central. A person went ahead and built something without a permit, and it's very close to the water. The Committee of Adjustment in the township turned it down. He has appealed. And right now, the tribunal hearing is set for 2 days, starting on February 24th, and Ms. Kapusta will be given evidence on behalf of Township of Central Frontenac. Next, please. Just a update on Alto. Now, this is obviously a lot in the news right now. There's a lot of, I would say, noise going on right now about what's happening with this project. Fortunately, I was myself, the CAO, and our warden met with 2 representatives from Alto virtually this week. And I'll just give you some of the facts that they explained. One of the questions I asked, for example, was, why is the South Corridor showing up and it's never shown up before? The answer that we got was that it hadn't been public before, but they'd been looking into it. And after doing some analysis, they determined it was a viable alternative. One of the number of reasons they said they were looking at the Southern Corridor was the topography is easier to go through. And I think they're talking about the Canadian Shield and not the Canadian Shield. And that because it's slightly further south than Highway 7, that there would be a longer construction season, so they would be able to do more work over the period of the contract. They made it very clear to us that this has nothing to do with being closer to major population centers. And they reiterated that their direction from Transport Canada is to build a high-speed rail line between Quebec City and Toronto with the stops that they've outlined in public. They have are not considering, this group Alto is not considering long-term future stations. That their direction is the stations that we put on the map are the ones that we're looking at based on their mandate from Transport Canada. The first phase from Montreal to Ottawa, their goal is to do all of the work they need to do, and that includes the engineering, how many bridges they need to build, all the environmental studies, noise impact studies, whether they build, use elevated rail or fencing, etc. They have to have that done by 2029. And at that point, the federal government will decide this is a go or it's not a go. If it is a go, then that first phase will start construction if all things work out in 2029. The other thing they explained to us is that the other phases to the line will start before the first phase is completed. And their goal to have the entire rail line between Quebec City and Toronto is to have it complete by 2041. So their vision, so I talked to them about, as a planner, you know, we think 25 years, 50 years ahead. That is not their vision. Their vision is no further than 2041. And it's to build the line that they've been told to build by Transport Canada. So they can't talk about it, additional train stops near Kingston or whatever. They just can't do that. One of those corridors will be selected. Obviously that'll be selected probably within the next year, but that's all the information that we have right now. But there is, as you see in the bottom, there's 2 open houses near us coming up at the March 4th and 5th. One's in Perth and one's in Madoc. And they'll have a lot of their staff at both of those meetings. And there's also the webpage link for you if you're interested in getting more information. I've been on that website. It's very informative. I recommend you check it out if you want more information. Next, please, Jeanette. Oh, sure, Fred.
Yeah, regarding Madoc Township, just remind anybody that's not actually the town of Madoc. The Madoc Township is north of Highway 7, about 8 kilometers, and that's where that recreational center is, if anybody's planning on going to that particular one.
Thank you, because I bet most people don't know that.
I found out the hard way.
Just an update on the healthcare project. It's a major project for our department, squarely in the hands of Ms. Miller. Over 500 hours of work so far on this. It's a very high priority, of course, for Frontenac County. Debbie certainly can answer more questions, but we did have a report and a presentation to County Council last month. And the Health Home Working Group, which Debbie attends with the OHT, is still happening, and they've just started meeting. So we will be keeping you up to date on that project. But if you have more questions today, Debbie's here to answer them. Next, please, Jeanette. Just some of the work that Richard and Debbie are working on. They've been holding business meetings at the request of the Wolf Island business community on a monthly basis, helping them look at ways to move forward. And again, Richard and Debbie can talk to you more about that. They're currently working on their networking and business visits and training for this year. And then they attended a destination development online session on January 20th. We've had interviews for the position that you supported. Thank you, for the new community development officer. They were held the week of January 19th. A lot of interest in coming to work in Frontenac, which I think is a good thing. People are starting to know that we're trying to do good things here. We hope that we'll have somebody starting in our office no later than the end of next month. And so that's positive news. Next, please. And then KMP Trail, as Richard notes here, the entire trail's been available for snowmobile use. There's been increased traffic. You have a note that on that one weekend, over 500 snowmobiles went through Sharbert Lake, which is amazing. And we're still continuing to work on purchasing the KMP Trail from Mississippi Valley. So again, Richard's here to answer any of those questions. Next, please. So before I take questions, there's one slide I didn't put up there because it wasn't ready to go when I did this. Just to update the committee. So there has been an application for a subdivision in South Frontenac in the village of Hardington. Some of you may be familiar that there was a subdivision approved in Hardington for 13 lots almost 10 years ago. It was appealed. The county and county council supported the approval. So we went to the board to defend it, and the board approved it. We have just deemed an application complete for an extension of that subdivision right down the Petworth Road, 34 units. There'll be a public meeting in April at the township for an amendment to your official plan and to the zoning bylaw. But we would encourage the committee members to possibly attend that meeting, because there'll be the subdivision will be on the table as well. But if this official plan amendment, it's not approved by township council, the subdivision can't move ahead unless the applicant appeals. So we've deemed the application complete. That does not mean we're endorsing the application. Not all the work that's been submitted has been done satisfactory to us, so we have to get them to revise it. The other thing I should advise you is that the consulting firm hired by the developer is going to have their own open house. It won't be a township meeting, it won't be a county meeting, but they want to have their own open house. Where that is, we don't know yet, but it probably will be either in Verona or Hardington or Harrowsmith, and that is expected to happen in March. But that will be a developer-driven session. Just want to let you know that. 34 residential units are proposed with a stormwater pond. Ultimately, if it moves forward, it'll come to this committee for your endorsement to move on to county council. So I just wanted to give you that update as well. And that's it, Madam Chair. I'll take any questions.
Mike?
Thank you for that report. Question about the natural heritage study. What is the consulting firm looking into, and what do you hope to achieve from that study or learn from that study? What's the purpose?
It's to, so here's one of the benefits we have compared to 2012. We're so far advanced in GIS now with the information we have. And in fact, no pressure on Christy, but it's a big component working with the consultants, giving them all this information. We have LiDAR data now that is incredibly accurate. We want them to show us areas that need to be protected that we're not aware of. And the one example I've given in presentations before is an area called the Kennebec Wetlands, which is an area north of Kennebec Lake. It drains down from Mazenod Lake past Cloyne. It's a very large area, like 6,000 acres north of Kennebec Lake. If you look at our maps online, very little of it is protected. the province, one small part is designated as provincially significant. But when you look at it collectively, it acts like a giant sponge. And when there's major storm events, it holds back water on the Salmon River for 3 or 4 days and prevents flooding. So those kind of bigger picture areas we're looking at recognizing and protecting, which the province really hasn't dug into those. And that's what we're going to have the consultants do. And then again, eventually it starts at the policy level. The county official plan will highlight these areas and look at better ways to protect them.
Is there any economic development or tourism related portion of that study highlighting areas of interest for visitors, whether local or from abroad?
We're hoping that comes up in the consultation. We're hoping we get a lot of comments about that, especially the tourism side. And what I'm sure a lot of businesses who are like yours on the Lake Huron know the area far better than the consultants will know. And you can highlight areas where people go to and want to make sure are preserved.
Thank you.
Just getting back to the natural heritage study as well. One of my concerns is that the official plans, both the county and North Frontenac, are very vocal about protecting the waterfront. And I'm just wondering how much importance do you put on the waterfront things when the townships are concerned about it? And then when we have planners turn around and they go against the public what they want in it, you know, how do we handle that now? Is that going to be given more importance, the waterfront, to protect these waterfront areas that people feel that are sensitive?
Through you, Madam Chair. It's not a priority in this study. In my opinion, we've done a lot of work on the policy level for waterfront protection in terms of the lower tier official plans. We still don't have all of the data we would like in terms of water quality, and I'm not sure if we ever will because of the cost of doing that. But the study will look at land areas adjacent to lakes and look at what ways to highlight areas that need to be protected to reduce negative runoffs on the lakes, but it won't be focused on waterfront policies per se.
Well, there are some. I'm talking more about Gravel Point, that particular development, and I know it's gone to the tribunal, but there was a lot of people that were concerned with how that came out, and now our planning department's going to be working against the township to support their decision because they're going to be called in as witnesses.
It's hard for me to comment on that because as a matter of public record, our department recommended approval through an extensive analysis. Whether we're at the tribunal or not, it's up to we have to be subpoenaed. We're not going to show up at the hearing, as you say, to go against the township. That's not going to happen. Someone is going to have to subpoena one of our planners to attend the hearing. And it's our professional obligation to defend our opinion if that happens.
Okay, Ray?
Thank you. Going back to this also, the high-speed train, are we even going to have a say in it, or is that just going to be shoved down our throat? In your opinion?
They're doing an awful lot of consultation. I don't know. I mean, I haven't been, except for the meeting we had this week, and I've watched a video on the internet on YouTube. There was a organization called Rail Fans Canada. You remember that name? You type that into YouTube. They did a video of a meeting they attended in Ottawa, which I found very informative because they interviewed a number of Alto staff, and it was all facts, all based on facts. My impression was they've done an awful lot of work already that is not public. So I'm assuming it's going to be based on technology, science, and good engineering. But I think it is important. Obviously, I'm a planner. I have to say this, that they listen to the public and that they take into consideration the public concerns that are more subjective maybe than the objectivity of environmental impacts and engineering. So we're encouraging people to attend those meetings.
Just a couple of quick questions on the Hardington subdivision. Do you have a date yet for that official plan amendment? It's the first question. And the second one, did the developer do a servicing option reports to demonstrate why they're not using decentralized services, which is now approved in the official plan?
Thank you for those two very good questions. Is the date April?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe it's April 7th, but the notice hasn't actually been sent out and posted. I think it has to be done by tomorrow. No, it was going to be, I believe that they were confirming they were going to try and get it into Verona for the meeting. But like I said, this is all speculation because the notice has not been published. We will, when it is published, we will be sending it to all the committee members because we've been working with township staff. They are required, there's 3 applications. 2 are township applications, official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. And then the 3rd is a county application, which is the actual plan of subdivision itself. So the 2 applications with the township are required under the Planning Act. They must have a statutory public meeting. For us, we're not required to do a statutory public meeting, but we always do it because it's the right thing to do in terms of working with the community. So we talked about, you know, essentially maybe doing a joint meeting, but we decided it's going to be a township meeting because they have to do a statutory meeting and they're going to run the meeting and set it up. And everybody on this committee will be invited to that, and there'll be an in-person and a virtual option. So if you're not able to make it in person, you can at least watch the presentation online. We didn't want to do 2 presentations, 2 meetings around the same time with the same information because we were afraid we'd confuse everyone. So we just felt it was better to do some kind of combined meeting. So everybody here will be invited. And I think it is going to be April 7th. And there will be a consultant applicant-led open house, as Mr. Gallivan said. I don't have an exact date for that, but they want to do it well in advance of the public meeting. So they have the opportunity to potentially respond to questions and maybe make some changes.
With respect to your second question, was there a terrain analysis study submitted? The answer is yes. The first submission was we deemed to be incomplete because they did not look at that question about whether they would look at communal services. And from the previous hearing, I am well aware that on that property, there's very good water quality and quantity. They submitted a second submission that looked at communal to a level of detail that it goes beyond our planning analysis. So we are turning to the utility, our utility, specifically the company that is on retainer with the utility, Clearford. We're going to ask them to review it and comment on it. So we're still not clear about whether their argument that communal is not efficient is the right answer, but we'll get that answer.
Okay, well, you understand I'm a little biased on that, right?
Okay. Thank you. I have a couple questions as well that regarding the rail and this lower aspect. Are we looking at KMP Trail being impacted?
From what we know so far, there's no crossings that are meant of any roadways that are meant to be at grade. So we would advocate for the same treatment for the trail in terms of things. If the southern corridor is selected, everybody is speculating that the Cataraqui Trail area is what would be the route that is followed. That's speculation at this point, and so we don't know. It's possible, but we're not at a stage where we can do that, but we will be providing comment with respect to the trail network here.
Okay, and just for background, that it's my understanding that anything that the rails needs to do anywhere in Canada does have federal authority and priority over anything. So we can have all the consultation in the world. If they want to put a rail line down, I think they're going to put a rail line down. Going back to the communal services and that was raised, is there not any leverage that we have here at the county for that size of a development that they actually must use the communal services?
Thank you for that question. So the new official plan for South Frontenac is very clear that if you're looking at building in a settlement area, priority is building it on communal. Now, this extension of this subdivision right now is outside the settlement area boundaries. That's why they need an official plan amendment. But I think the short answer to your question is yes. If we work with Clearford and Clearford says there's no reason they can't do communal and potentially they could build some more apartments, for example, then we would say to the developer, we'd like you to go back to the drawing board. You know, we have a utility in place that can look after these. This is not a theoretical exercise anymore. So, you know, we should have an answer to that question in the next couple of months.
Okay. And the final thing regarding the natural heritage study, I welcome it for the forward-looking aspect in that, because it's too late once things are lost. And, you know, other countries do 100 to 500 year plans and that. So even looking 100 years down the road, the value of keeping natural heritage when we're already in part of the arch, and that it's just, it can't be overstated. We don't have the Rockies here, but we do have Frontenac County. Just a footnote on that, we never hear about the connection of the islands and that with the economic development. So at some point, I know we'll be talking about riding and trails and things of that nature and that, but I can give an update because Frontenac Islands, as you've noted, and that have had less applications applied for, and that's primarily related to the ferry service that has been problematic. But on the good news side, the township purchased Horns Wharf and secured that, and on the South Shore, Cape Vincent purchased Horns Wharf, and it will likely be, I expect, an American service that will ultimately set up a ferry service, and they'll have to work with the federal government on our side. Is the most difficult group to work with because it's customs and immigration that, but the ongoing economic activity and that of Wolf Island in particular, because Howe Island has a different culture, not nearly as entrepreneurial, is going to continue to survive and that. But at some point in time, it'd be nice to have it more inclusive with what's going on in the economic development, because historically the island Wolf has been part of the round the lake bike riding cycling, and I've been working prior to the loss of Horns with the mayors on the South Shore as well as the North Shore to have around the river and that. So we're rather unique, but when I look at it, when we're talking about trails for bikes and that, it really should be included to connect to Wolf in particular, and that, and certainly could loop through Howe Island as well. Okay, so do we have to have an acceptance of that briefing or no?
I'm sorry?
Do we need an acceptance of his director's briefing? Good, okay. Okay, so we have reports of the Planning and Economic Advisory Committee consultant briefing with Amy Hogue of the Ontario Highlands Tourism Association organization and Jane McCulloch of Terminus Consulting provide PEDAC with a briefing of the Eastern Ontario Rail Loop project. And you are virtual, I take it.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks everybody for the committee. And we're really happy to be here and be able to present about this project. I'm going to share my screen and start the presentation. Okay. So thank you and good morning. I've already said that. I'm looking forward to diving into this presentation and what it can mean for the region, specifically in Frontenac County. I'm here today with Jane McCulloch she's the principal of Terminus Consulting, and I own and operate Dragonfly Communications and Marketing, Inc. We have been the consultants of record on this project and have been involved with it for, I guess, for me, over a year and a half, possibly, and for Jane since the very beginning in 2023 or early 2024. So, about the Eastern Ontario Rail Trail Loop, for those of you who are not familiar with it, it is a 360-kilometer cycling route connecting rural communities across 5 counties, built on former rail corridors and existing trails. Once completed, the loop will be a tourism and economic driver that connects trail towns to offer cyclists friendly services and experiences. Odo has taken the lead in this initiative, and together with the counties of Frontenac, Lanark, and Renfrew, the town of Smiths Falls, and the township of Rideau Lakes, and the Cataraqui Conservation Authority, our goal is to develop a signature Canadian cycling experience and the longest export-ready rail trail cycling loop in Canada by 2030. So we've bitten off a lot, but we're very excited about the project. This project wouldn't be possible, of course, without the generous support and funding from the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, the Government of Canada, and the organizations, counties, and municipalities shown on this slide. I'm going to pass you over to Jane now, who's going to talk about the Trail Town vision for the Eastern Ontario Rail Trail Loop, why they're successful, and what it means for this region. Jane, you're okay, good.
And thank you for having us today to speak about this wonderful project. Trail towns, we're going to be talking quite a bit about this. So trail towns are not just places that trails pass through. They are destinations along the trail. And for Frontenac communities, this means designing public spaces, amenities, and services that welcome cyclists. The goal is to encourage trail users to stop, spend, and stay overnight. So what is a trail town? Well, this is a proven model that has inspired over 50 different programs across the United States, and we also have one in Canada that I'll speak to later on. Successful trail towns align municipal planning, business readiness, and community pride. In Frontenac, places like Charlotte Lake already demonstrate this model, while others like Verona are emerging. Success depends on collaboration between municipalities, businesses, and volunteers. Based on the potential offering that the trail provides and the local community development priorities, the most strategic and high-value tourism experience is the cycling product. There is a built-in audience. Trails like the Eastern Ontario Rail Trail Loop attract thousands of cyclists, walkers, and outdoor enthusiasts. These visitors are already traveling through communities, and trail towns give them the reason to stop, spend, and stay. They're low cost and high impact. Many improvements, such as bike racks, signs, welcome kiosks, and water stations, are low cost. Compared to large infrastructure projects, trail town investment yields strong returns with minimal risk. Local business boost. Cyclists typically spend $250 to $300 a day on food, lodging, and accommodation and experiences. Towns benefit from new revenue at cafes, shops, markets, and meets. Fourth one is civic pride and revitalization. Beautification, signage, and community events around the trail increase town pride, and residents become advocates and towns become more attractive to visitors and the locals. And finally, they're flexible and scalable. Trail town principles work in small villages or larger centers. Communities can scale up over time, starting with basic services, then adding deeper programming and branding. So the economic impact, this is some of the information that we provided. So we know that visitors spending drives local economies, and use of recreational trails spent substantial amounts on lodging, food, retail, and services. A Trans-Canada Trail survey recently noted that there's $13 billion annually from trail tourism, supporting over 221,000 jobs. And as noted before, high per visitor spending, but also on top of that, they also stay in the region longer. So that per day spending is multiplied by the amount of days that they're staying, because they cycle shorter distances than other power sport users. Job creation, so trail systems and associated tourism can support hundreds and thousands of jobs. So there's so many spin-offs when it comes to the trail economic impact, which then moves into indirect and multiplier effect. Beyond direct spending, trails stimulate economic activity. So the success story that I'm usually speak about is the Great Allegheny Passage. I've had the opportunity to visit this trail 3 times and doing trail best practices on the trail. This is what can happen when you do the project properly. So this is the original Trail Town project, where the Trail Town program was originated. And you can see that 65 new businesses were started, 270,000 jobs, 270 jobs were created, 10 times more visitors, and a $50 million economic impact. Just anecdotally, there's a small town called Confluence that has about 700 residents. Within that town, they now have 3 bicycle shops and a number of small mom and pop cafes that have opened simply because of the trail. The town of Ohio Pile has around 80 residents, and in the summer that blooms to a million visitors. And so you can see the impact that these trails can provide to communities, both small and large. But we need to work on the capacity for these communities. And then a local success story is the Trent Severn Trail Towns. And so that is in RTO 9. And this shows how they've worked together to coordinate and develop a trail town program. And they do have a website that you can go and take a look at that highlights each one of the communities that are located along the Trent Severn waterway. And it also links the water routes to the cycling paths with the rural communities. The Eastern Ontario Rail Trail Project. We'll move to the next slide. Initiated in 2023, the loop connects the Cataraqui, KMP, and OVRT to one signature experience. I know Amy's already spoke to it, so I'll just move down to the projected impact, which is 200,000 annual cyclists and a projected 100 million in total economic impact. Next slide. Partnership overview. The project is delivered through a multi-county partnership administered by the Ontario Highlands Tourism Organization. Frontenac's leadership in trail management, signage, and business engagement strengthens the overall loop. Long-term success depends on continued cross-jurisdictional collaboration. So why cycle tourism? Because we do know that the majority of these trails are multi-use trails. Well, cycle tourism is a low-impact nature-based experience and supports active transportation between communities. We also know that it's one of the fastest-growing segments in experiential travel. Cycle tourism is the typical stay is longer and spends more than the average visitor. It's more accessible and much easier to travel with their bicycles from long distances. However, this is not to take away from the existing users. In fact, the work being done to improve the trail will improve the experience for all of the users that are currently using the Frontenac KMP. Cycle tourism equals rural opportunity. Trails draw visitors directly into villages like Sydenham, Verona, and Charlotte Lake, and spending supports accommodation, restaurants, retail, and services. Trails help extend the tourism season beyond peak summer months. Trails bring visitors directly into rural communities. In Frontenac, this supports local businesses, shoulder season travel, and return visitation. And finally, the loop acts as a catalyst for broader rural revitalization. It is clear based on these numbers that the potential to benefit from the trail economy is quite significant, and the partnership is well on its way to becoming a catalyst for regional revitalization and long-term economic benefit. That being said, we are not there yet. I'm going to spend some time reviewing the work that has been done and what is required in order to create a cycle tourism product that will attract travelers from not only Canada, but abroad. So we have 3 stages of product development. So phase 1 is what we've been working on. Phase 2 is what we're moving into. And then phase 3 will be the final piece where we're actually promoting the product. So there were 5 different activities that we've undertaken since the beginning of the inception of the project, which is coincidentally 2 years from, really 2 years from January 2024. So we've established a vision of a 5-year roadmap. We've established a strong partnership structure that we're continuing to build. We've secured funding with the help of Ontario Highlands Tourism Organization. There are memorandums of understandings with the partners, and we're in the process of developing a governance structure. A tremendous amount of work has been completed since January 2024. However, it is now time to think about the future and the work that is required to achieve the market-ready status of the loop. So what is market readiness? So market readiness from a trail perspective, it includes the following pieces. So on-site field assessments, consultation, review of existing plans and policies, data collection and mapping, and user experience. And so when I was here for 2 weeks, I was out working in the field, meeting with people, reviewing existing plans prior to arriving here, and really using the trail from a user's perspective. So I was able to look at the trail not as someone who's technically inclined of, although I do have that experience, but I really looked at it from what the tourist is going to experience while they're on the trail. So we'll move into the takeaways. All right, so an assessment, so I conducted the assessment in May of 2024, and there were a number of strengths that we found. So the municipal buy-in was tremendous. Infrastructure condition, there's a lot of strength in the infrastructure condition. Proximity to larger tourism hubs, so Kingston and Ottawa, that's a huge asset to this trail. There are supportive communities and that are already embracing the trail and promoting the opportunity. There is business interest. We do know that there are businesses that are interested in it. We've had conversations with them. And there is scenic and diverse landscape. Each one of the trails that are included in this loop are very distinct in the experience that people will have. And I think that's something that really needs to be capitalized on. Some of the challenges, however, are the infrastructure gaps. So we did talk about the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority piece that KMP has been working on and acquiring. But there are also 2 other partners within that still need to acquire the land to do the work. And there's some challenges with the Cataraqui Trail in terms of its appeal to the hybrid cyclist market. There are some service gaps like accommodations and camping, food and beverage, outfitting and rentals, and shuttles and luggage transfer. The biggest gap within your region is from Sharbot Lake to Calabogie. And so that is the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority area. And that hopefully will result in some activity in the next little while. Then we're talking about the harmonization of sign systems, bylaws, and governance. Richard has mentioned this in his report, and we've actually started working on this with our trail managers. And shared use trail with ATVs may be a deterrent to some cyclists. I had a delegation of cyclists and trail managers from Europe, and they are not used to ATVs. And so if we want to cater to these groups, we need to make sure that we have and we do know that there's a very respectful relationship with the ATV community, but I think we need to start socialize the concept of the fact that it is going to be shared use. And then that's it for that. So phase 2, just a little brief, and then I'll hand it over to Amy. I always talk about the fact that even if the trail is spectacular, this does not instantly make a tourism product. There are a number of elements that need to be considered in order to make a complete trail tourism product. This is where phase 2 comes into play. We need to continue to focus on product and infrastructure development. Outreach and buy-in from tourism operators and communities is key. A path forward with roles and responsibilities clearly articulated is extremely important to ensure long-term sustainability of the loop product. Creating experiences or connecting to existing experiences along the trail enrich the trail user experience and helps to support businesses that may not directly be on the trail. I'm now going to hand it over to Amy to talk about the market readiness assessment.
Thank you, Jane. Building on Jane's presentation of the ongoing tasks in phase 2 of this project, we can look at the tremendous amount of work that has already been completed. To date, through the support of consultants like Jane, myself, and Amy Camp from Cycle Forward, we have completed the community engagement plan, the trail assessment, the industry communications toolkit, industry branding, and a marketing needs assessment, as well as like the industry marketing collateral map and a web page. So we are on track for meeting all the checkpoints needed for a 2030 market ready product. It's important to note that the trail itself may be market ready, but the experience is not. Although there has been a lot of work that's been done over the past couple of years, there is still plenty ahead. Which brings us to what's next. So what's next for phase 2? At this point, we are into the planning stage for launch, looking at fulfilling those needs identified in the marketing needs assessment, of which there were plenty, and assessing the readiness of the trail, and importantly, by looking at how many of the recommendations in the trail assessment created by Jane have been completed by partners. Without having the trail ready for use, from a user perspective, we can't really launch it as a fully developed product to our markets. Taking that to the next step, how do we determine if we are market ready? We look at the 5 pillars on this slide, noting in particular the first pillar, readiness level of the experience. This is the most important piece that needs to be completed right now, and basically it means The wayfinding signage is completed, the trails are in usable condition, the amenities along the trail are there for users to access, and getting businesses and experiences on board is the biggest barrier for the trail. The brand readiness is asking, is the consumer branding in place? Is the marketing strategy created? For digital readiness, we're looking at having the GPX files available on Ride with GPS. Do we have a web page? Asset readiness, these are like our marketing assets, photos, video. Do we have those ready for both the consumer and the industry audiences? And finally, partner readiness, having trail partners being successful in recruiting trail towns and operators to provide amenities and services. Is the consumer marketing toolkit written and distributed? Basically, we need to ensure that we're able to communicate about the trail with effective branding, messaging, and assets at a point when the trail itself is ready to welcome visitors. Given that there are 360 kilometers of trail to prepare, I think we will need every day between now and the anticipated launch between 2028 and 2030. One of the pieces that we have completed is the web landing page at oto.ca/Eastern Ontario Rail Trail Loop. That provides a resource for tourism operators and stakeholders to access for more information about the project. This is where people can visit, including everyone in this meeting, to understand where we are in the loop development process, to access guiding and strategic documents, and to look at the map, read news related to the loop, and sign up to stay in the loop as the loop's progress continues. And here's the loop. This is the first visual representation of the loop, and those who have been involved in map development understand that there will be other iterations of this to come. The purpose of this map is more of a communication tool for businesses and operators and stakeholders to take a look and see, have a visual representation of what this trail will look like. You can see from this that the loop connects diverse landscapes, the Canadian Shield, Frontenac Biosphere Reserve, and the UNESCO World Heritage Sites of the Rideau Canal, positioning Eastern Ontario as a primary cycling and nature-based tourism destination. The map also kind of gives us an idea of some of the challenges that we're looking at in terms of experience development. On the east side, I guess it would be, we have many small towns that are in close proximity to one another, but it gets a little bit more sparse on the left side, particularly above Clarendon Station. So we have to think about, from the trail user's perspective, what experiences or accommodations or access to resources will people have when they're traveling through that route. Although our target date for official launch of the loop is set for 2030, there are portions that are currently market ready. This offers us a great opportunity to raise awareness of the product as well as the project to both visitors and community stakeholders while the full loop is being developed. These sections also provide a sample of what we envision the loop experience to be. Last year, Oto worked with Ontario by Bike to promote a content piece for a segment of the loop. And in 2026, there are 2 pieces planned, one of which will be focused on promoting another cycle-ready segment yet to be determined. The location is yet to be determined. Interestingly, Destination Ontario picked up the article Ontario by Bike circulated, promoting the segment of the loop between Almonte and Pakenham. This gave a great boost to the content and is indicative of how Destination Ontario prioritizes cycle tourism. The Loop's pilot itinerary and single-day experience, featuring a market-ready segment of the Ottawa Valley Recreational Trail from Carleton Place to Pakenham, was produced last year. Oto created an itinerary of the experience and distributed it through paid marketing. And we have the reel. I don't think I'm going to play it, but it's available on the Ontario's Highlands Tourism Organization's social channels. And this was used to capture the cycling experience featured in this itinerary and serve as an example of what we could do with other segments. So why did we pick the segment from Carleton Place to Pakenham? It checked all the boxes basically for market readiness. There was ample parking at trailheads, good trail signage, the trail was in good condition, and there were experiences in both Carleton Place and Pakenham and along the trail route in Almonte. There was shopping, places to eat and drink, to buy water, use the bathroom, pump up your tires, and even spend the night. As I mentioned, in 2026, we're looking at promoting another market-ready segment of the trail and are exploring some ideas for the segment between Charlotte Lake and Sydenham, which is approximately 55 kilometers or roughly 3 hours of cycling. This is a doable day trip with an overnight stay or an out and back for intrepid riders. Another option is Smiths Falls to Portland, which is a 25-kilometer trip that would take about 1.5 hours. Both segments offer food and drink and a place to spend the night, so they're good candidates for our promotions for 2026. Whoops. Sorry, I was playing the video. So our commitment for 2030, the 2030 vision is a 5-year roadmap for a market and export-ready product. The trail may be market ready, but the experience is not. And while there's been a lot of work completed, as I mentioned, we need to build on what the experience is on the trail so we can complete all the other steps. So our vision is an infrastructure-ready trail with consistent surface, signage, trailheads, safety infrastructure. It's community-ready, primary and secondary hubs with long-term parking, bike amenities, food and lodging, and off-trail experiences. It has an integrated visitor experience with a website, social media presence, itineraries, GPS integration. It's governance ready. And I think this is a piece that's being worked on right now. Long-term partnership structure with sustained project management capacity is in place. It is also market ready with international promotion, cohesive brand, knowledgeable cycling ambassadors, and strong visitor feedback. The export ready piece is the last piece, actually, and that means that it's ready for international visitation. The Ontario's Highlands Tourism Organization has a travel trade partnership project that is excited about the opportunity to market this product to an international market through travel trade. Looking at this, we can see where we're headed year by year. The annual phasing for market readiness. This year, we'll be working on the brand foundation and early digital planning. Next year, building out the website and the content framework. In 2028, we'll focus on content production and getting ready to launch the entire trail product in 2029 to 30. We're on a roll for launching the Eastern Ontario Rail Trail Loop as a signature Canadian cycling experience. And as we mentioned before, the longest cycling loop in I can't remember if it was North America or Canada, but it's going to be a significant project and product in the cycling world moving forward. So for anyone looking for more information about the loop or to subscribe for updates, you can use the QR code here or visit the webpage that was oto.ca/Eastern Ontario Rail Trail Loop. We will be sharing content there as it becomes available. And you can also sign up for the newsletter where you will get more information. You won't have to keep visiting the page. You can just sign up and you'll get it right in your inbox. Does anybody have any questions for either Jane or myself?
Hey, Fred.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's really good. I used to cycle quite a bit and I really enjoyed it, but one of the problems I see that you're getting onto multi-use trails with all sorts of different modes of transportation, and you know, how do you define who's allowed on a trail, and especially when you're getting into the hybrid type cycles, using electric power to help motivate them, move them along. How do you handle that?
Well, interestingly enough, I just finished a master plan for another project, and we did have, it was a shared use trail master plan. And within that document, I think there's a lot of things that we can apply to this particular project as well, in terms of how we can develop mutual respect between users, but we also have to put some pieces to mitigate challenges and issues. And I'm also working with someone who does moto mobility. So the e-bike piece, the hybrid bike piece, that's really an emerging trend that we do need to be aware of. And so there is a consultant out of Ontario that I'm actually going to be reaching out to after this to start talking about for another project around how we manage that, because you're right. There are, you know, not only are there the power sports, but we do now have these e-bikes that are creating, there's conflict between bikes, e-bikes and regular bikes. And so that is something as a team we'll be working with. So I've been working with the trail managers. So that would be Richard and Jonathan from the OBRT and Anthony and Taylor up in Renfrew to tackle, and Tom at the Conservation Authority to tackle some of these things. So we don't have it all ironed out. And you raise a very good point, and that's something that we are very cognizant of. But at the same time, we don't want to exclude any of the existing users, because that is, the trails will remain the trails that have been defined and accepted and embraced by the communities. We're just adding a product, a label onto it for the cyclists. But so we have to learn how to work better together, and that's what we're going to be doing with our little trail manager cohort of people on the project.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Sorry, if I could just ask you, Amy, to stop sharing that slide, please.
There we go. Okay, well, thank you for the presentation, and I'm pleased that uh, the points were made, especially regarding the amount of money that is involved with people that are actually doing cycling. Because I know before and that some of the information that was coming forward was closer to the $55 a day spending, which I knew was absolutely wrong. And that because, as I said, we may not have trails per se on the island, but we've always been part of a cycling loop around the lake. And I hope at some point that can be resumed and then expanded out to around the river. And then it's also not far to get hooked onto the foot end of the KMP trail. So we could really create something
Mhm.
entirely unique in North America and international.
Mhm.
But we do appreciate, lots of the bed and breakfasts and businesses that pop up along, and even one of the islanders put up outhouses along the way at his own expense, just because he felt bad for them squatting at the side. So anyways, I'm pleased for that, and I look forward to this. And I do appreciate it's going to be tricky with the ATV use on some of this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks.
Okay, now we're at staff briefing. Debbie Miller will provide PEDAC with the briefing of the 2025 business retreat. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jeanette, I don't have clicker, so I'll let you. Perfect. Thank you. So I just wanted to provide an update about the Frontenac County Business Retreat. This year was the 4th annual year that we held the business retreat. It was the first year that we separated the retreat out from the awards. So the previous 3 years, it's been the business retreat and awards. It was held again at RKY Camp in Parham, and it was really focused around connection and collaboration. It was held in October. There was 51 attendees from across Frontenac County that attended from various businesses and support groups. Next slide, please. This is a photo from the day later in the afternoon. Great group that attended and participated in the day. Next slide, please. So around the day, there was programming throughout the day. Really a big focus is around networking and connecting businesses together. We had various panel discussions that were around business supports, talking about what various supports can be offered to businesses. There was a conversation around experience development and the collaboration with the regional tourism organizations leading that conversation. And then we had 3 hands-on experiences where participants that were there for the day registered to participate in a hands-on experience. There was one that went outside. It was a forest bathing, an introduction to forest bathing. There was another one from Back 40 Artisan Cheese that was a guided cheese tasting. And then there was also a broom making experience. So each of the experiences that were offered were from different Frontenac County businesses that provided them. And then there was a panel conversation following that talked about experience development, where they were at in their experience journey. Businesses were able to ask questions to get more information around that. We did also have a conversation through the day around the Eastern Ontario Rail Trail Loop and opportunities to connect around that, collaboration with other businesses and things like that. We also had a lunch that was an in Frontenac lunch. Rampant Kitchen provided the lunch, and they worked with various farms and producers in the area to provide that. So there was different products depending on the meal choice that were coming from different areas. So again, great feedback around that as well, with the focus on local there as well. Next slide, please. Again, just some more pictures showing the group coming together and some of the experiences that were offered. The top right-hand corner is the cheese tasting, the guided cheese tasting. The bottom right is the broom making, and then the bottom left is the forest bathing. So lots of great conversations and feedback, and very casual follow-ups after as well. So it was I've received great feedback from the business community. Next slide, please. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Mike.
Thank you, Debbie. No question, just want to comment that, as Debbie said, it was a great retreat. I was there personally, we enjoyed it, and we made lots of connections. And I commend you on the hard work that you do and encourage you to keep on doing. This is a great thing do not stop it.
Thanks, Mike.
Leona?
I have a question. Kind of is regarding your session that you do, this business meeting, but also the rail trail loop. And I'm out of my league in terms of economic development conversation, but I'm an interested person in moving and in business opportunities. And I see an opportunity when you do a business meeting like this. How do you get people who are thinking about a business, but they aren't at your meeting because they're already businesses that exist? How do you target me as somebody you don't even know has a business idea and lives in Frontenac, but I'm not part of your business right now? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think so.
And I think the same thing for the rail trail loop. So as I listened to this, and I think she made the comment about bike shops being an opportunity and somebody that opened 3 bike shops. My business mind went off that I'm already thinking of 3 different things. I don't need to add the 4th one to my mind. But how do you get those people that you don't know are out there to your event or to this conversation as a business opportunity? Because I clearly have something in mind with what I'd like to do or creating a business. She made a comment earlier that somebody bought a place on Wolf Island as a business, but they don't know what to do yet. How do you get them to these meetings as potential opportunities for business?
I would say it's a work in progress.
Okay.
We would, we really encourage you as committee members or others from the public, we encourage business owners to let them know that we exist. So to connect them with us, then we set up business meetings and we'll go out and visit and have conversations. But it really takes a village to bring everybody together and bring people to those sessions. We encourage people to spread the word, bring somebody new that they're talking about, or encourage them to come to the networking sessions. We do promote across social media or other channels, our newsletter through Frontenac Business Services and our partners as well, so the RTOs as well. So we encourage it, but if anybody has ideas on other ways to connect, or if you've got other businesses that we should be connected to, please reach out. Thank you.
Okay, on
If I-
that note.
Pardon me, Madam Chair, if I could just add to that. And in terms of the rail trail loop, part of the plan is to develop investment attraction packages. So to say, we're looking for these kinds of things and here's some high level business case data that might help you pursue this, right? So number of trail users, location, other types of things that we have access to that other folks might not have. It's not something we've scheduled yet, but it is on the list of things to do.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Would that information be available to the public or by request only?
We provide a lot of data about trail use through our annual report that we produce that's available to the public both online and on paper. And if folks requested more specific data to a specific area, we could see if we can if we have that data set or not.
Okay. Just a footnote in that for Leona and that coming from the Howe Island area, it's part of Frontenac Islands. Now, is it Wednesday, the 3rd Wednesday that you have the meeting for the businesses on Wolf?
It's the first Wednesday.
First Wednesday, at what time?
It's from 9 to 11.
9 to 11. That's
Yes.
more than welcome to come and
Yes.
join in that and see if there's a synergy that can occur,
Absolutely.
because we seem to be on our own for much of this and rightly or wrongly, and we've already got quite a bit of background in doing tourism, and we're expanding further and further. And my late husband had a cycling Wolf Island, and that's I still maintain when I'm around, and that's so it's big, and that for us, and welcome over. Thank you. All right, so now we will need to move her in a second or correct for this one. Okay. All right. Well, we've that under the staff briefing then. PEDAC for the Frontenac Business Awards, already did that. Business Awards information piece, done that, correct?
No.
No, she said
We're
nope,
to
she
the-
wants to
we're
get
to
to
the
that.
awards. We did the retreat.
There
Sorry.
we go.
It's a bit confusing now.
Okay. So do you have anything else
I
you'd
did,
like
yeah.
that? Yeah.
Jeanette's just got a slide there. Perfect, thank you. Can you slide forward one? Yes, we're good. Yep. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. So the Frontenac Business Awards, this was the first year that we separated the awards out from the retreat, as I indicated earlier. The one thing we also did at the retreat was encourage businesses to nominate other businesses at the retreat. So that really helped. We kept the nominations open for an extra week after the retreat, and we did receive several nominations following that. There was 39 nominees this year, so across 5 categories. We've had 5 categories in the 4 years that we've run the awards. Once the nominations come in, they are scored by an anonymous scoring panel that scores against a criteria. Then they're scored, and then we confirm with the anonymous scoring panel. The one thing I would say is we only use the information that comes in from the nomination. We don't go out and research, and we don't go out and look for other information, because we know that there's more information about certain businesses. So to make it even across the board, it's what comes in through the nomination. The 5 different award recipients are listed here: Business of the Year, K&P Brewery, New Business, Rampant Kitchen, Partnership and Collaboration was the Rise Farm, Innovation and Sustainability was Parallel Studio, and Women-Led Business was Allison Montgomery from Back to Health. Next slide, please. So we held the award celebration in Godfrey in Piccadilly Hall, and it was held in November. These are some slides from the award winners. And the one slide with Allison, she unfortunately couldn't be at, they don't find out until that night, but she couldn't be at the awards. So we went with the mayor from South Frontenac to present to Allison at her place of business. Everybody's holding their awards. Next slide, please. And each year we've gone to a different artist across Frontenac County to design and create the award. So this year it was created by Paul Outwater from Select Manufacturing and Supply in Hardington. He created the metal piece, but we've had 4 different artists create a different type of award each year and their interpretation of the Frontenac brand, which I find is really fascinating when we see them come in, and it's always fun to see the different interpretations of what that is. Next slide, please. So this just speaks a little bit to the process that we went through. The nominations opened in mid-September, and they were open till the end of October. We had 36 attendees that attended the celebration. And we also this year included words from a previous award recipient, Kate Slagle from Blue Moose came in. She was the Women-Led Business Award recipient last year, and she came in and said a few words to the group. There was lots of very positive feedback about having that and hearing from other award recipients. So it was really lovely to have her there. And I think the last slide is just some photos from the event. So just some photos of the group that attended. The warden was there to present the awards and say a few words of congratulations to everybody. And then you can see the various business owners and award recipients that attended as well. We do make everybody aware that they've been nominated. We don't let them know that they're recipients, but so they're aware that they've been nominated so they can hopefully plan to attend. And that's all for the speaking about the awards, but I just wanted to share some information about that. So again, a successful event.
Okay, any questions? Leona?
Again, just a comment because I'm the marketing person. That award is fantastic. And the fact that you use obviously somebody local. In my business, we actually commission people to do awards similarly in the area. And there's one thing that maybe to note, and you probably have thought of this, is the fact that they're of value that people probably don't expect because they're a limited edition. You only made the 5. Those artists obviously have some value that future they could be worth money because they're only the 5 of a kind. Just commenting to that. People may not know that. And great job.
Just, I think most of note is that Select Manufacturing makes ductwork generally, and so it's really interesting to see and push what they can do with their materials.
Okay. So we've included then the business awards report of 7.6 with that, correct? And we're at the business directory demonstration. Okay, and I think that's Richard.
I'll just, while Christy gets things set up, I'll just introduce briefly based on the report, our business directory was tied to our existing county website and website provider. And we are in this year changing website providers, and we're in the process of that transition right now. And so we, as part of that, we needed to create a new and more cost-effective business directory effort, which we briefed the committee about at the last committee meeting in November. So we thought we would share with you the work that our in-house team at GIS has pulled together, and Christy's more equipped to talk about it than I am. So I'm going to pass it off to Christy Elderhorst, our supervisor of GIS.
Thank you, Richard. This is kind of a precarious setup, so I'll do my best here. Hopefully you can hear me online. Yeah, so just as a refresher for anybody who wasn't aware, this is what our current business directory was looking like. That will be deprecated as the website is redeveloped. So it is much more table and list based. There is, and with additional information available under each business. With the GIS team coming on board to redevelop this business directory, we obviously wanted to make it a bit more map centric. So my mouse is moving really slow. I apologize, but no, so you're seeing a browser right now. There we go. Okay. My apologies for the slowness, but here we go. So here is the redesigned business directory that has really been a collaboration between our two GIS specialists, Robin and Anand. It's a little bit difficult to see the text through the shared screen here, but it is quite readable on the person's browser as they are viewing this page. So it just opens with an introduction to the county and the 4 townships from a business perspective. You can see all of the businesses on the map as it opens, as well as the categories with the different symbols on the right-hand side there. We are working on, we're still working on developing what the final categories will be, but before the launch of the website, that will be ironed out. You can see some different tabs on the panel to the left here. So if we flip over to the business list, you'll get a list of every business that is registered in the directory. And obviously people can click on these as they will to get more information, but there is a search bar at the top middle, which I assume is what most people will be using to view business information. So if we just search for a sample business here, so it'll bring up this sort of business card style information package for each business. That's right. So yes, it does give information about what township the business is located in, what category it falls under, as well as the address, phone number, a link to email the business owner, and a link to the official website. So we have an interactive button here that just will give directions to the business on Google Maps. My apologies for the network. But anyways, it will open just like that if they prefer to be routed there when they're on the road. Let me flip back here. Also, this email business little widget is interactive. So if they click on that, it will automatically open an email in whatever their default email system is. And this button at the bottom here will bring up the official website of the business.
If you use the search bar, could you type in something like electrician, and then the list of all the electrical people would pop up?
Yes. Just one second here while I.
And on that note, since this is county and that, it might be helpful if you could identify which businesses are island friendly, because some services won't come to the islands because of boat problems and delays. So many people go out on the social forums asking who comes and that who they can get.
Okay.
And I think that would be very helpful for us.
Great. Yeah, we can look into incorporating that into the database for sure. Yeah, so just the search bar at the top, you can certainly search for any keywords that would be in the names of the business. We're also working on a tag system so people can search any like cafe or coffee or electrician, and it will come up with all the business regardless whether that word is in their business name. That will be a work in progress likely over the summer to implement that tag system. But for right now, you can search for keywords in the description, in the name. You can just search for a hamlet or center, and it will. Did I spell it? Oh, sorry, I can't even see that on my screen right now. It's covered by the Zoom thing, so my mouse keeps slipping down. Oh no. Ugh. The joys of a live demo. So yeah, searching by that will filter just to show the businesses in whatever area you are interested in. One final section on the bottom here is a filter tab where people can go to if they are only interested in viewing businesses from one of the townships. Say they're planning on going to Central Frontenac, Rabbit Lake, they can filter and only see businesses in that area. And there is also this category filter here where say they're planning a golf trip and they only want to see golf courses, or they're planning they need an accommodation, they only want to see accommodations. You can filter the categories here. So now it's showing only accommodations in Plevna because that search in our search bar is still active. So that is the general gist of the new business directory. We're hoping it's exciting for users to get information through this avenue. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer on the GIS design side of things. And we have other experts for the other questions.
Thank you for that. Amazing. Is this already live?
It's not live at the moment. The launch of this will be aligned with the launch of the new website, which I believe it will be in the next couple of weeks.
Sometime between now and March.
Okay.
Okay. And with the businesses, everything that's already on the old thing will be transferred automatically. And if anybody has a new business, like Leona was mentioning, or you are going to reach out to the community to help them, to get them update their information if it's not there, right?
Yeah, so the information that we brought in was based directly on the existing database. So all of that information will be in here. We also did several rounds of vetting that information to make sure it's all accurate. And there will be a way for new businesses to submit to be included in here as well. And yeah, I guess I could also mention that alongside of this public facing solution, we also developed a background dashboard for Richard and Debbie to use, which will allow them to track the interactions that they have with each of these business owners. And in that side of things, there will be a section for businesses that aren't yet open, people that are kind of interested in starting a business or just have an idea, for them to be able to track their conversations with them as well.
My question specifically, would the businesses be able to update their own information, or this is something you will be doing?
I see.
They will send you the request and you will be updating.
Yeah, they will send us a request through a form and we'll update the information.
Thank you.
Okay. Leona?
As always, a comment. I'm going to assume that when you do your rail loop conversation, that may be transposed as an additional benefit to this. And that's an excellent looking job.
Certainly, yes.
Okay, and just going back to the idea of the island-friendly approach net for services in particular, water, septic, electricians, contractors, all that. Is there any way to also expand it to potentially the Gananoque area, which is not part of us, and yet is one of the service sites for Howe Island in particular?
Howe Island is Gananoque.
I'll take that. So at the moment, we scope and support the businesses that are located in Frontenac County. There are a lot of businesses that are located outside of Frontenac County that service Frontenac County residents and businesses, but we're not necessarily mandated to support those, and it would get very large very quickly because there's a very close larger town right across from the both ferries, and we have to be able to manage the number of requests we get. And so we can handle the requests from Frontenac County, but if we start accepting businesses from Kingston or Gananoque or Leeds and Thousand Islands, that would take it's a different scope that we would have to undertake and understand.
So are you indicating that businesses that might be located in Kingston that actually service the islands would not be included in this?
That's correct. This business
So that's-
directory is a
that's very
directory
unfortunate.
of Frontenac County businesses.
Yeah, well, it's very unfortunate in that because it's very unlikely that somebody from South or Central Frontenac is going to be coming down to service the islands and that. So it's a practical perspective as well. And that I think should be looked at. Phil.
If I may, Madam Chair, Richard, how do you deal with somebody who is maybe working for a company that's located in another location but works remotely from their home in Frontenac County?
We have businesses that are available in the list that aren't that don't have their addresses. So we have a lot of home-based businesses in Frontenac County where they provide products and services. They're based in Frontenac. Their business is registered in Frontenac, but they don't want people coming to their home to pick up their products or services. So they're still in the list. They're just not on the map. If that makes sense.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Okay, and now we're on to communications. Seeing none. Other business?
Judy, could I just make a comment?
Yes.
Being that I'm in this webinar, it's very hard to hear people. So if everybody would pull their microphone right down and speak into it. Leona, I can barely hear, and I've got my volume on like 95, but it's really difficult to hear people unless you speak right into the microphone.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. So we're at other business. Is there any other business anybody wants to bring forward? Our next meeting, oh, are you getting something there? Okay. Okay, next meeting will be,
The next regular scheduled meeting is on Thursday, March the 26th at 10 o'clock in the council chamber.
March 26th. Nothing in February. Okay. Thank you very much. And now can I have a motion for adjournment? Fred, and seconded by Leona. All those in favor? Wonderful. Adjourned at 11:37. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.